Subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon for the latest film interviews, features, and recommendations on the movies that matter.
The only thing I've ever known for sure in my life is that I wanted to be on the first mission to Mars.
Good to see you, Ray.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Ray, on this show, you play a member of the international crew of the first mission to Mars. You play Ram Arya, who's Indian, of course. He's an ISRO astronaut. I was wondering if you can talk about the significance of that.
Well, I think first of all, the diversity of this whole cast is incredible. And it was one of the things that attracted me to this role, was that I thought what this show was saying was something so beautiful in terms of its storytelling, but also in terms of the way it was being cast. And of course, to have that responsibility of representing my culture, which is so important to me, on something of a scale so big and something that was heroic. For me, the responsibility of children or young people that look like me being able to watch this show and go,
right,
I can aspire to be an astronaut, or I can aspire to be an actor even. It was just really important to me. And I think what the creators of the show have done is something beautifully original and diverse. And it's absolutely what the world needs in this moment, I feel.
I miss 20 million miles from the people she loves.
You know, as a British Asian actor and filmmaker, Ray, I know that you have both created and sought out parts that aren't defined by color and race. How much of a challenge is that in the world that we live in? And how big or small then is the pool to choose from?
So for me, my filmmaking endeavors really came from a place of frustration earlier on in my career. I realized early on that I didn't look like people that were being cast as leading actors. And I knew I had it in me to be able to be that, but the opportunities weren't there. So I decided the best way I could handle that was not to scream and shout about it. And I had to do what I could do best, which was teach myself how to learn to write and produce and create these roles and put myself in these leading roles and make myself undeniable, you know. And that was the only thing I could do. And I didn't know if it was going to work. And then quickly, you know, soon into writing and stuff, I realized that storytelling was something I was good at. And I created some movies, and some of them were done on super low budgets, but I was able to give myself a leading role and not defined by race necessarily. I'm an actor making this movie and I can hold the movie. And it was the best thing I ever did because it enabled people to see me. But sometimes you have to take your career in your own hands. And you have to do it. And what was interesting, the particular film I'm talking about was a film called Convenience, which we made £80,000. And it was two British Asian leads. The roles were not defined by their race. But when it came to selling the movie, people struggled. I was in meetings with people and huge distributors that were saying, we don't know how to market this movie because it's not Bend It Like Beckham or it's not East is East. And I was like, well, it's more like Kevin Smith's Clerks. You don't just market it as that, as a comedy. Right. So whichever way you turn, things are a struggle, but now things are changing and I do see things changing. And I think it's a moment to really capture. So hopefully it just gets better and better in terms of diversity.
Ray, I don't know if this is a stretch, but I couldn't help sort of drawing a sort of parallel between the astronauts on board this ship, the Atlas, you know, stuck with only each other for company in a small space for a long duration of time, with those of us around the world that have gone through a long period of lockdown in these COVID times. You know, the feeling of isolation and claustrophobia, craving to be out in the real world, caring for those among us that have gotten sick. Do you see that? I mean, is that a stretch? Am I just Does this make any sense? I mean, does the parallel strike you?
Parallel, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. What was interesting for me was there's the term away, the title away encompasses so much. I was moving away from home to come out to Vancouver to shoot this job. And I think it's probably the longest I've been away from my loved ones. And I realized pretty early on arriving in Vancouver, I was incredibly lonely. And I realized I've never been this lonely in my life. It was incredible. And just this weird coincidental parallels that just happened. As I was on the plane over to Vancouver, I was reading New York Times, and there was an article on loneliness and the pandemic of loneliness around the world. And it moved me so much. And I thought, I didn't realize how many lonely people there are. And then when I got to Vancouver, I was experiencing a sense of loneliness myself. And then when you look at Ram as a character,
yeah,
he's a lonely guy that has nobody to love in his life, or no one, more importantly, to love him. And so I was able to draw all these parallels. And then, of course, when lockdown came along, it was horrible. I struggled, like I think most of us did. But I was almost a little bit prepared because of the time I'd spent away from my loved ones out in Vancouver. And so I was used to not seeing my father and the people I loved so much. It didn't make it any easier, of course, but I was sort of in a mindset where I could handle it. So yeah, incredible parallels in this show, spookily, you know. And I don't know, without spoiling too much, but there's an episode sort of in the middle of the series where my character has to be quarantined.
That's right.
So it's like just amazing foresight.
Right. You know, I have to very quickly ask you the geek question. What was it like shooting some of the zero gravity bits? I know that there was a lot of CGI, but was there a little bit of practical effects, you know, with cables and stuff floating in the ship?
So, it was incredible, and I see the results of it, and it looks amazing. But let me tell you, it was difficult. Like our first bit of rehearsal when we arrived in Vancouver was to practice the wire work. And so the first day you get into these wires, you're like, I can't even stand up in this thing. How am I going to pull this off in 2 weeks' time? And then, of course, we had an incredible stunt team that guided us through it. And every day we were practicing a little bit more. And of course, cut to 2 weeks later, we were up sort of 50 feet in the air, doing spins and showing off and auditioning in our minds for Cirque du Soleil. So but at first, and an amazing workout for the body. Like I have a sort of six pack for the first time in my life due to the wire work. But you know, when you in those wires and then you've got those heavy suits on and you're trying to stay in character and deliver lines, that was very, very difficult.
Thank you so much. It's such a good show. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Ray.